This is Jim Atterholt. I'm the Vice Mayor for the town of Fort Myers Beach. Welcome to Key Questions with Key Staffers. This is a show where we find specific subject matter experts, particularly as it relates to post-Hurricane Ian cleanup, so we can help get the word out. Abraham Lincoln once said, "Let the people know the facts and the country will be saved." And this is the town of Fort Myers Beach's small attempt to do just that. We have a very unique show today. We're going to take a tour of the mooring field with our harbor master, Austin Gilchrist. Austin, good to have you with us today. And again, the way this process works is we're going to post this show on all the town's social media networks. And then our friends at Beach Talk Radio have been kind enough to play it before their regular scheduled programming on Friday and Saturdays. And then we encourage other folks in the media, at the Observer, the News Press, as well as the local TV stations, whenever they're working on a story that's kind of germane to this subject matter, to link to this particular program. And we ask our friends back home who are using Facebook, if this is something that's interesting to your friends and neighbors, please link to this and help us spread the word. It's a great way to get the message out. Again, we're going to walk down with our cameraman to this particular location that we're here today. Here's the enforcement boat behind us. Now, Austin, tell us a little about, first of all, where we're at, and Jacob can take a little shot of the area that we're literally right behind the temporary town hall, across the street from what used to be the town hall. But we're on the canal here that goes next to Tropical Shores Way, which oddly enough is where I happen to be living temporarily until our condo gets fixed. But Austin, this is somewhat unique in terms of this location. Talk a little bit about, for people who are boaters and want to get out on the water, tell us what's unique about this particular canal.
Yeah, so this canal actually holds our only public dock that we do have left on the island. Right after the storm, we have a floating dock area that was up off the pilings and pushed into the mangroves. Staff has went ahead and pulled all that out, cleared the area out, and reassembled the dock for usage. Our other public docks all have been completely wiped out. And the reason why that's so important is because we do have people coming to this island that need to come to land. A lot of people come in by sailboat or cruisers that typically use a dinghy or something smaller to come to land. This area here is something accessible that you can come into and get services by coming up to the mainland here. We also have a community center over on Connecticut on Access 22 that harbors our laundry, bathroom, and shower facilities for anybody that may be needing to utilize it coming to the area.
That's the Beach Baptist Church area,
right? That is the Beach Baptist Church area. So I believe we're working on getting more facilities set up for the boaters, but at this time, that's the only thing that we're relying on right now. If you do Google 36 Gulf Beach Road, it should pin this dock for you here. There's not much parking right now, but we are working on getting some parking down to this area. We do have people coming in by dinghy to utilize it. And basically, it's a first come, first served basis. And the community's been really up forth and helping out everything. So the safety issues and things like that really hasn't been an issue with leaving your dinghy here or anything like that. So this is free for use for anybody coming to the island. We do just encourage people to be aware of the debris in the water, especially in these canals areas. A lot of the canals have lost a lot of their depth due to the sand shifts and the debris being pushed in. So you want to be aware of your tide coming into the landward ways as well.
Austin, so I had a completely different mindset. This is really for people who need to come onto the land, not necessarily park here and take their boat out. It's not a boat launch. It's for people who need to get onto land. Is that right?
That is correct, but it is set up for kayak launches. So if you do need to launch something as well, like I said, the parking's limited right now, but soon in the next week, we should have parking there. But it is set up with a kayak launch as well, with an overbar for you to swing onto and then launch your kayak if you need to use that.
Okay, very good. Well, we're going to just take a walk down. We're going to have our cameraman come with us because it's kind of interesting, because we're going to go right by the Bay Oaks baseball field. And I think people would be interested in seeing that. And just real quick, Jacob, if we just pan over here, you can see Chapel by the Sea's roof over there that's obviously got some challenges, and that whole building has some challenges. And then this is behind the town hall. This is the temporary town hall. We originally started with tents, and now we've got trailers throughout the temporary town hall. And we're soon going to have a mid-island fire station starting there in the front of Estero. And then you can see Bay Oaks here is the baseball field, the baseball facilities. And you can see all the debris is pretty much gone, and they're working on remediation for this area. So Austin, as we walk down here, talk a little bit about what people would need to know as if they're visiting or either coming on land or launching their kayak.
Yeah, so like I said, the number one thing that we're concerned about is safety here. We're not trying to promote anybody really coming to the island by boat at this time. We do have the mooring field open for wet storage, and I'll go over that later. But coming to this area,
so is this gentleman going out on a dinghy right now?
Yeah, so he's heading out to his vessel that he probably has in a mooring field. I've got people out there now that are storing their vessels that go out there and keep bringing supplies out to do repairs or anything they need to get underway. The problem that we had in this area was all the marinas were wiped out. A lot of those marinas had floating docks, what had stationary pilings that the docks rode up and down on. Since the storm surge was so high, those floating docks came up over those set pilings and then drifted off. So you have a lot of boats that's been displaced that way, but a lot of the boats have been returned to the marinas. But the problem is the marinas are trying to rebuild. So we're trying to get that load off the marinas so they can come and store their boats in the mooring field while they rebuild. So that's kind of the angle we're taking now. And we're also bringing in people that are just passing through to go to other places. We'll set them up for a day or two, but they have to understand that we've been kind of limited on our amenities and what we can provide here. We do have the community center that we do offer if you do need to use that, though.
All right, very good. Excellent.
Yeah, so this was originally set up as a kayak launch, I think a few years ago, and we had Coastal Engineering come in and design and build this. As you can see, it withstood a lot of the storm and storm surge, but it does have a lot of damage, a lot of debris, and still a lot of sand and stuff washing up. At low tide, this whole basin is exposed, so if you're coming in at our lowest tides, this may be inaccessible by boat. So keep that in mind coming here and just be aware of the tides coming through.
So the tides really impact the canals given their shallow depth at points, right?
Yeah, and especially at the end of these, at each canal, we have noticed a buildup of sediment happening. Basically, the flow comes in, the sediment settles, and then it heads out. And we do get a lot of complaints about floating debris and floating chunks of debris or waste. People think it's waste, but what tends to happen is at low tide, when these waters drain out and the bottom is exposed, that exposed land dries and hardens. So when the water comes back up, those hard flakes will break off and they'll surface, and they break apart, and they do have an odor to them, but they break apart as they head out with the tide. So keep that in mind. If you do see particles and things floating in, it's mainly organic, and it's just sediment that has dried out and broke free from the bottom.
And Austin, you've been up and down pretty much all the canals on Fort Myers Beach. Can you tell, is the impact of the storm in terms of the sediment and the sand and all the stuff that's in the debris, is it different for every single canal? Are there certain parts of the island that you could tell that got influenced or impacted differently?
Yes, to the extreme almost. We've been down, we did a canal inspection last week where we actually went down every canal, wrote down everything, what we've seen, any problems. We took depth readings and everything to that nature. And every canal has its own thing going on. We've been down canals where the statues weren't touched, that were on the dock.
Statues.
Like people's yard ornaments. Yeah, decorative, anything hasn't been touched. The next canal over is their sunken boats. The lifts are completely collapsed. It's just fascinating, the difference in you go 20 feet, 30 feet, and how the storm impacted each canal differently. So you can see a tremendous change as you go down. It seems to be the smaller the width of the island, the more drastic it seemed to be. Where we go back into thicker neighborhoods that were blocked, then there wasn't much impact.
Where the island was wider, less impact on the canal side. I see.
Yeah,
interesting.
That's what we've seen. Yeah, and then we do have areas that the sediment has washed over the seawalls, and we've lost the complete seawall on back ends as well.
Any advice to people that are going up and down the canals, just kind of sightseeing and just looking around?
Yes, please watch your wake. All right. With all of these docks and all of this damage, everything is not secure anymore. So every wave, every wake that comes down there is knocking boards, it's knocking things loose that are drifting into waterways and causing hazards to more boaters. So when you do come to this area, I understand we're working on getting our no wake signs back up and getting all of our perimeters set for slow zones and things like that. But at this time, these back bays need to be slow zone or no wake. Keep in mind all the debris that is still haven't broke free, anything that may be sitting on any beached area, you're hitting it with wake and it's washing back into the waterway. So on your way back, you may be hitting a piling that you yourself washed into the water because you're going a little too fast through the waterways.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So we've been noticing a lot of that. And like you said, every canal is different. You'll see a lot of the damages and a lot of the debris still, it's still in the waters that we're working on getting removed.
So for our boat people, what kind of, this is one of the town's boats. The town has how many boats in its fleet?
Yeah, so the town has 3 working boats. This is our enforcement boat, which was originally purchased through code enforcement, so we could do code enforcement on the water. That's another thing we've been noticing is the swimming pools. People doing work on their swimming pools, they're just draining them into the canals, putting hoses in them and draining them. That is completely illegal. There's nothing that needs to be pushed into the canal. Florida law states that any water that is gathered on your property needs to remain on your property. In order to disperse that, it needs to percolate through the ground. So if you are draining pools or you need water drained, a hole needs to be dug and it needs to drain into the actual ground so it can filter through before any contaminants, more contaminants get put into the water.
Well, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
For our boat fanatics, so what kind of a boat is this?
Oh, I'm sorry, the boats, yeah. So we have a 17-foot Carolina skiff with a 70-horse Yamaha on it, which is great on gas and it gets us around through the day. We typically use this for monitoring and inspections. We also have a 25-foot pontoon boat, which is our aluminum work boat, and that's what we do all of our diving, all of our maintenance on, and we do a lot of our just all around dirty work on that boat. That's kind of the workhorse. Then we also operate a 27-foot pump out boat, which is a custom boat made by Pump Out USA down in Key West. And this was their first built from scratch boat. And basically what it is it's a working barge with a 1,000-gallon holding tank on it that we go out and do pump outs. All of these vessels are required to have an MSD, which is a marine sanitation device. There's 3 classes of those. You have class 1, class 2, and class 3. Our class 1s are a holding tank, which you have to have your seacock locked and in a holding tank position 9 miles offshore in the Gulf. You can dump 9 miles out in the Gulf, 3 miles out in the ocean, but it's 9 miles in the Gulf. And when you're coming into port, all of your seacocks need to be at port. Now, what we do is we go around in the mooring field. It is required you have a pump out. So every week we go out and pump out anybody in the mooring field, and then we operate on a request statute as well.
I'm sure most people know what you're talking about. When you're talking about pumping out a boat, you're talking about literally removing the waste, like a septic tank,
like
in essence,
a septic
right?
tank.
Yeah.
That's correct. Human waste is what we're referring to here when we're talking about pumping out.
But you can drop that legally if you get far enough off the coast?
Yeah,
I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah, you can legally dump 9 miles. Okay. So that's something that we defer from. So we always recommend anybody heading out, please schedule with us. We will pump it out. It's $5 if you're not staying in the mooring field, but no matter where you're at on the island, we can go 1,000 feet out. We'll come and pump you out. It's what we do. So we encourage it.
And that's one of the reasons why the town got involved in the mooring field business, is to help encourage people to use the pump out service, as opposed to just dumping illegally in the bay and polluting our bay.
Yeah, even in the marinas and stuff like that, we will come and pump you out. And
that's because the marinas don't have that service because they've just been damaged by the storm. Is that right?
Okay. That's correct. So all the marinas in the area, like we said previously, were completely wiped out. The floating docks and everything to access the marinas themselves have been pretty much wiped out. So a lot of the people that are still living on the boats are reverting to what they need to maintain what they're maintaining.
So you're because your town boat is functional, you're potentially going to work with the marinas to help them until they're able to rebuild their pump out service.
That's correct. Yes.
And then you're looking for a place to dump your waste. Hopefully have it. Maybe you said you were going to have a truck come in.
Oh yeah, so we've got to get creative since we did lose a lot of our assets on the beach. We're working on bringing in septic trucks so we can empty out the tank on that boat. Like I said, it holds 1,000 gallons, and in high season that lasts us about a week, and then in slower times we can get probably about a month by with filling it up there.
Now, us and I are going to take our cameraman, and we're going to go take a little tour of the mooring field. And just for, again, folks who don't live in this marina world, talk a little bit about what a mooring field is and why the town of Fort Myers Beach has one and how big is it?
Okay, so originally the town didn't have any mooring field.
Explain what a mooring field is, though.
So a mooring field is just a regular set anchorage area. It's a waterway that's been established to prohibit anchoring. The problem with anchoring in our area is basically the chain. All right. And a lot of people, I don't know how, if you realize how the anchors work, but basically it's the chain that holds you in spot. You'll drop your anchor down and then you'll scope out as much chain as you need to hold your boat stationary. The problem with that is the tides that we have coming in and out. Every day we get our tide change and these boats are constantly rotating. All right. So if you think about the bottom and that chain on the bottom, all that's doing is ripping the bottom up and just creating no growth. It's diminishing seagrass areas and it's just destroying the natural environment to the area. Not only that, it's breaking all the compacted sand loose, causing sand shifts and things like that. What mooring fields and what we have done here is we've put in place helical anchors is what they're called. We start out with about a 6-foot helical anchor, and then we drill those into the seabed, and we keep going until we reach the torque desired that we need to reach. We'll add extensions on, and some go as far as 18 feet, 20 feet, 13 feet, depending on what's under the sand for us to grab onto. We test them at about 30,000 pounds before, and that's straight up angle. So if you get any angle on that, you're just adding to the pull strength of it. So during the hurricane or during the last storm, or I would say any storm in general, we open the mooring field up for safe harborage. There's nobody's charged at that time. We don't encourage it, but it is somewhere you can go to seek safe harborage. We were completely full during the storm in our existing mooring field. That compromised the systems that we had because they were never really rated for that much storm surge. So that's why at this time, the mooring field, the existing mooring field we have shut it down until we can get complete replacements of each of those systems that were in there. But essentially a mooring field is just a regulated anchored area.
And again, you have the special anchoring system that doesn't destroy the seabed, and that's connected to a ball that people see visibly above the water, right?
Yeah. So what it is it keeps everything off the ground. Under the water, what you have is an anchor head that goes down, and its footprint is probably about 3 inches by 3 inches. And on top of that, that's the only thing that makes contact with the ground. On top of that, we slide on an anchor head with a bolt, and then that ties up a storm soft, like a bungee line, a high tense bungee line. And then on all those lines, we put floats to keep everything up in a float. Not only does that keep it off the ground, but it keeps it from entangling on itself, and it keeps tension on the whole system. With tide change and everything else, the elastic of the system gives, so it's always scoped straight up. When you put systems on them, they'll scope out, but for the most part, it's just straight up and down.
In Austin, a lot of people who use the mooring field live on their boats. Was there anybody living on their boat that decided to stay for Hurricane Ian, or did everybody get out?
No, so before the storm, we went out and did an inventory of anybody that planned on staying on the boat. We had probably about 30 occupants that rode the storm out on their boats.
In our mooring field?
In our mooring field, there are videos online that a lot of them did post that you can look for. And
what was their basic experience, aside from the obvious horror? But how did it work out in practical terms for people that stayed?
Yeah, so we had no fatalities in the mooring field itself, but the boats, I would say 70% of the boats, the system stayed, but either the cleats ripped off or something failed on the vessels themselves. We did end up losing about 5 systems, and we're still evaluating it to assess what actually caused the loss, or did we just lose the float or whatever. We haven't been cleared yet to start our diving operations yet. We're still doing water tests and things like that. So as soon as that happens, we'll have more answers on what exactly happened under the water. But at this time, all we have is the surface evaluation of what we've done. And right now, it looks like the most problem we had were the boats themselves that had failed. The stories that I've heard from the people in the mooring field go from people waking up in the shrimp docks over here to they started their boats up and tried to untie and ride the storms out, to boats going down, to people ending up in the mangroves. It's just everybody has a different story that they live through. But the one thing that they all have in common is nobody's ever gone through anything like that before. So
did anybody actually stay affixed to their mooring ball and, and stay in place?
Yeah, we had the majority did stay in the field, but for the most part, it was a catastrophic loss all around.
And was the danger to somebody who stayed in the mooring field from the debris coming at them, or was it from the waves, from the storm surge? Where was the biggest danger piece?
I would
probably all the above.
Yeah, well, the debris is one aspect of it, and then the storm surge itself was pretty much the biggest concern for the boaters. As soon as they started losing the moorings, there was no buffer for them to hit or to stop, so they would just be pushed until something stopped them. We've had boaters that ended up in trees. We've had boaters that ended up, like I said, in between two shrimp boats. We've had boaters that ended up in the mangroves. We've had airlift boaters out. You name it, the rescue operation went in every direction after the initial storm. Okay. So every boater has their own story, I would say.
Well, we're going to take a quick pause so our cameraman and Austin and I can safely get on the boat, and then we'll continue the show a little bit. Okay.
Yeah. So
go ahead, Austin. We're heading out now down literally abuts Tropical Shores Way here, and this over here is Bay Oaks, correct?
Yeah, this is the Bay Oaks, but there's a preserve that surrounds Bay Oaks. If you look on a map, this canal is pretty much the end point where the residential housing starts and the preserve begins. So if you are
there's where we're renting right now.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So.
Okay, so yeah, you know,
there's our favorite boat there, the debris boat. So we just went by a boat with debris there. So if somebody sees a boat in their canal, what would you advise them to do to help expedite the removal of the boat?
Yeah, give the town a call and let us know. We can give you a situation report on that boat.
Is it the town or is it iandebris.com?
It's probably be Ian Debris, but as far as if you need information, give us a call and let us know what you're up against. For me, I like to go out and meet the people and exactly see what the problem is and see if we can really get something moving on them, or if it's something that we can remove ourselves, we'll scramble a boat and go get it.
And Austin, you said you just did a survey of all the canals on the island, and you did some recordings and some data. Is that data going to be accessible to the public?
Yeah, so we're putting it on a spreadsheet now. It was in our last, I believe, planning meeting that the council had. I think you guys voted on moving forward with doing more canal research.
And maintenance, yep.
And maintenance. So that's where Chad Schutz, the environmentalist, and I are getting together and trying to figure out the best way to execute these canals. We're trying to figure out exactly what information the state wants and state needs. And then we're going to try to get some dredging projects put together and see if we can start getting some depths increased on these canals so we can start getting more boat traffic.
But I'm guessing the public would be interested in their particular canal. What's the depth in my canal? How did it fare after the storm? Even people that haven't got back here. So that would be interesting information.
Yeah, so that information, for it to be so precise, there's a formula to it, and it takes a lot of specialty equipment that the town doesn't possess. We're doing rough estimates right now to kind of get the drastic areas and how severe areas have been impacted. But for the future, we want to do it right. So we want to bring in the correct equipment or correct firms to do this. Right now, we're trying to get the troubled areas and really going out and talking to the community and seeing the biggest concerns that the community has, so we can.
And you're checking the seawalls as well as the depth. Yep.
Everything that stands out and anything that shouldn't be, we're making note of it. Every canal is a number on it, and we go through and correlate that number with the issues that we're having. Every finger canal has a number associated with it, so everything is being documented at this time. What we are running into and what we're trying to eliminate is water hazards, anything that's in the waterway that we're coming across. With these tides, a lot of things are being exposed that weren't there before. And then there are a lot of shifting happen because a lot of this debris floats. So even though it's not floating on the surface, it's still floating. It's just not on the bottom. So that's what we're running into, is a lot of this stuff that's still just shifting around.
See, this whole house was just gone. Austin, for folks who don't live along a canal, how does the tide impact a canal?
Well, the tide impacts by shifting everything. Basically, the weight of the water on your seawall to debris coming in, to the way that your plants react on the vegetation side of it. So what you're gonna run into at your different tides is depth, all right? And and during winter you have more drastic tides than you would during the summer. So just keep in mind your tide levels and when you are coming to this area. A lot of these areas have shifted, like right over here, there's a shoal. You can barely see it under the water line.
Now you say shoal, what do you mean by that?
A shoal is just a shallow area that has bunched up with sand, and it's kind of formed a sandbar there. So that's what a shoal would be. You'll see caution shoal signs around the island, but like I said, a lot of our signage has been wiped out. So you've got to be real prevalent on the area and what you're looking at. And if you're not familiar with this area, just take it easy, all right? Take it slow and just enjoy your boat ride and try not to be in a hurry down here.
Now these are these mooring balls right here?
This is the back mooring field here. This starts at this ends at Hurricane Pass, which is back over here, which is an open anchorage area, which we'll go into later. But this was the back side of the existing mooring field. These were established years ago, but basically it was 1 through 70. Starting back here, it started at 37 to 70, and we would basically utilize this for wet storage or anybody that was staying for longer periods of time. We try to keep the front of the field open to where more transient people coming and going and utilizing the docks would come and go. But like I said, this area was set up for more stationary people, and it was that dock that we launched to would be the one we were.
Now a boat over here that's been damaged like this, is that likely to have been at the mooring field, or potentially was it washed into the bay from a place on land, or tough to know?
I would say 98% of these vessels either came from these marinas or came from our mooring field here. All of these vessels that you do see in the water, they're going through a process right now. I'll go over and we'll take a look at the FWC tagging on these, and basically they all need to go under investigation. They are somebody's property, whether it be their dwelling or their vessel. It does belong to somebody, and that somebody needs to go through the due process in order for the state to take care of this property here.
And that's the iandebrisremoval.com, or is that a different entity?
I'm sure you can start at the .com, but for the most part, it's going to be the FWC, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission, that's going to come out and handle these. As you can see, this one's been red tagged, so that means it's under investigation, and the FWC is aware of the presence of it. How that works is what I understand is a 30-day process for notification, a 30-day process for a forum, and then you have to put it in a public spot as well, like town hall, for it to be known. So right there is a 90-day process for this boat to be removed. But then again, this boat over here, which is a different boat, process may be not started yet, but they won't come out and just pick up one.
This is Mango Street right here, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. That we lived there for a couple months as well after the storm. We've lived all over the places. We're trying to find places to rent. So a boat like the one we just saw, if it was in a marina, was it potentially on the water, or was it in storage and literally the whole storage area got swept in?
Well, as you can see, there's no dockage or anything really here to tie these vessels up to anymore. The docks did extend out to these lifts and things like that, but as you can see, everything is completely gone. And if you look close, you can see how these boards and all this stuff is just barely floating on there. And you can see the length of that board there. So like this vessel here coming through, they're kicking a wake out, and that wake's going to wash up and start slamming into all this debris. So that's why we're asking people, when you do come to this area, please take it easy, because you're just adding to more hazards in the water when you come down and causing more wake.
And this condo here was one of the first condos that opened after the storm. They did a great job in their condo association, working as a team to get things going. This yellow house right here next to this condo here is Jane Plummer's house. Jane, of course, took quite a hit from the storm, and looks like she's got some contractors there looking at things. Yeah, everybody knows Jane. Jane's our vice chair of our LPA.
Oh, nice. This is a pretty common sight now with the barges coming through. We get about.
Now this barge we're seeing, is this a debris removal barge?
Yeah. So if you look close at it, it's got the hoist on it with the pickers, and some of them will do land-based removal. But a barge like this will do underwater removal, where what we've done initially after the storm is side scans to locate any large debris under the water. Those side scans produce coordinates that these teams will come out with those pickers, locate what was found, and then remove anything under the water that they can reach. We're removing cars, we're removing houses, RVs, you name it. We've removed large industrial propane tanks, coax boxes, anything that you've seen on land, we've moved it out of the water.
Wow.
Yeah. This was Island Bay Marina right here, which this was full during the storm. But as you can see, there's no way for any boats to really tie up to into there right now. It's just been decimated. This vessel here was on ball 1, which actually pulled the whole system out. He motored in to Hurricane Bay and fought the storm on that boat for 2 hours while he was motoring it until the engines blew. He lost one engine, and then he just motored it right into the island so it wouldn't sink.
Wow.
So that's the story behind that Hatteras there. Yeah, pretty wild.
Now we're approaching the mooring field again, the town's mooring field. Is
Yeah.
that correct?
So this is what's left of the front field here. This was the welcoming center for the mooring area, and as you can see, like this vessel here, this was pretty much the best that we had. The best outcome that we had was something like this here.
Okay.
We did have vessels that were still floating and that, but for the most part, the damage that sustained was pretty much this here. Everybody lost their masses and lost everything aboard.
How many mooring balls does the town have total?
Right now, we have 89. We started with 70 before the storm. About a month after the storm, we had installed the 19 extending mooring systems that we were working on for a year and a half prior to this.
Okay.
So it just worked out timing wise that the contract was executed. We got hit by the storm, and then after it, we just had to clear a lane for them to come in, which really helped us out because we do have something to offer the public for a service that isn't jeopardizing safety.
So again, we didn't touch on this, and we'll get to this as we get to the inland facilities. But for people who use these mooring balls, they have a smaller boat, which they call a dinghy, and then they'll go into the inlet to the dinghy dock, sort of dock their dinghy boat, and then they'll use the inland facilities to use showers and laundry, and obviously go into town for supplies and to do their entertainment and shopping and so forth.
Yeah, so that's basically what the town and the advantage of these mooring fields are. It's a real promotional piece and a real getter for people coming to the area by boat. And a lot of the things that I look at are the cars coming over that bridge, and we're an island. So a lot of people do have the opportunity to visit us by boat. So that's why it's real important for me to make this the best that we can, just like we do when people coming over by car. These parking areas or these mooring systems are here so that people can come to the island and visit our island. You know, we're trying to stay away from the liveaboard type staying for extended services. That in turn presented a lot of the problems with people trying to take up residency in the back field. We have an option that we can host 10% for extended leases, but the town just decided really to start steering away from that and open the entire field up for first come, first serve, short-term transient boaters. That promotes more usage of the field, it promotes more transient areas, and it promotes more opportunities for people to come and visit the island.
Talk a little bit, you mentioned about coming over the bridge, and I never really thought about this until you mentioned it. The aesthetic, well, there's a boat that had some serious challenges there.
Yeah.
Is that a pontoon boat?
Yeah, that's a pontoon boat that overturned during the storm. And it's been red tagged, so FWC has it under investigation, but the influx of boats like this, it's really put a time on
You
it.
talked about earlier before we went on camera that about coming over this bridge and the aesthetic value of having a mooring field in terms of having the boats organized in some sort of semblance of order where it looks nice, as opposed to this sort of wild west where everybody's got boats in different places, and again more when you're part of the mooring field, you're more incented to use the pump out facilities and not pump waste into the bay. There's just so many pieces of this puzzle that I don't think people are aware of, because people always ask me, well, why are we even in this business at Atterholt? And I'm like, well, I think there's a real benefit, not only aesthetically, but also encouraging people to not dump into the bay and having a service that makes that pump out dynamic so easy and accessible.
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit about that.
So staying in a mooring field, it is mandatory you do pump out. I did speak about the 3 types of MSD, the marine sanitation device. Class 1 is the typical holding tank that you would go in and use your facilities. It would go into a holding until it came and pumped out. Another system they have is called electrosand, where your waste actually goes into a compartment where it is electrode, and then all the bacteria and all the waste is basically destroyed. And then it sits for a certain amount of time until it turns into something that you can dump. You got stingrays over here fishing. But the third type would be a composting head, which it would go into some kind of composting material, whether it be peat moss or something else that they sold on the market, that would break down your waste into an organic waste.
Composting?
Compost. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Compost is what I was looking for. Into a compost to where you could dispose of it at a U.S. Coast Guard waste facility, which would be a dumpster or anything like that. So that's how the MSDs work. And basically it does, like you said, it really cleans up the area. The problem that we had in the past before we put in a mooring field was unregulation and unregulated anchoring, where it was voluntary purposes only, where people would only volunteer to pump out. So we really didn't have a record of who was doing what. Not only that, the trash that the boats build up, the way that they conduct themselves, and then just the all around the vessel sitting for so long. This area is prone to growth, to sea growth, all right? Within a month, if your boat's sitting in the water for more than a month, you're gonna have to go down and do some anti-fouling work. Either your straining pumps or your propeller or anything is gonna get fouled just from the growth that you'll see by staying in the area. When the people come into anchor, they're not regulated by any time restraints or anything like that. So while they're here, those vessels go into derelict, into at risk, and then they go into derelict. Typically, and then when we do ask them to move it, we're told that the boat doesn't run. We're told that this or that or this. So it really promotes just movement of the vessels.
Now, a lot of people it's going to become familiar territory for a lot of people over here, Jacob. This is Matanzas right here. For people who don't have a boat, they don't often get to see this kind of perspective. Obviously, we're approaching the bridge here. And talk about what we're seeing as we come in here.
Yeah, so Austin? This is Matanzas by the Bay. It's a local restaurant here. This is where we actually held our old facilities. We had our dinghy dock set up here, which was a fingered floating dock that was riding on these concrete pillars here. And then what we're looking at straight ahead is the old fishing pier that was attached with some steps that were under the bridge. That were completely removed during a storm. As we
so this is the fishing pier here, right?
This is the fishing pier.
And then a whole section was torn out?
Yeah, we lost a whole section, which I believe will probably go right over it as we're heading out here. But
and we're going to pull in and look at the inland facility.
Yeah, we'll go take a look here.
And this is the town's?
Yeah, this is all the town's property here. This is directly under the bridge. And like I said, what we're pulling up to, there would originally be this floating dock that is now in the parking lot over there. And we'll go take a look at it in a second. But yeah, this was all where the boaters would come to utilize land services here. We did have our amenities set up that we worked a program with Matanzas in.
You're pretty good at this.
And then from there, we kind of ventured out and took it upon ourselves here.
So Jacob, I hate to direct you, but look, this is where that fishing bridge. There's literally a whole chunk of massive cement missing from the under piece of this bridge. Never seen that before. Then obviously there's Nervous Nellies over here, which is hopefully rebuilding, and we know they're rebuilding. Hopefully they'll come back soon, and then there's Snug Harbor there right next to that. And you can see that marine is flourishing. Austin, for somebody who's renting a boat just to kind of go tour around, any advice you have for them?
Yeah. Please come down. Like I always say, be safe. As you can see, like these guys cutting through here, they're just kicking wakes out towards our area here. But be safe. Talk to the people you're renting the boat from. and see if there's any areas that they just need you to stay in. I know that there are areas that you need to boat within, but stay in the channels. Try not to venture out of the channels. If you do have an app like Navionics or any navigational signs that will actually show you where the marker's at, use it, and just stay within the red and the green. And if you are venturing, stay closer to man-made objects than natural objects, if that makes sense. Okay. The closer you get to any of these mangrove islands, the shallower it gets. So keep that in mind. If you see dockage or anywhere that a lift is at, that's kind of a good indicator that boats come in and out of there. So that means that you have depth. So that's kind of my indicator when I do go to places that I'm not familiar with. Try to locate man-made objects where you can see boats would have to travel, whether it be a lift or a dock or a ramp. Try to stay close to those areas. If you venture out into natural areas, you'll start hitting natural shoals. You'll start hitting island inclines and things like that. So just keep that in mind when you are out boating around.
It's really helpful. Thank you. We're going to take a quick break here so we can get our cameraman safely off the boat, and then we'll come back in just a second. Okay, we're right across the street from Nervous Nellie's here at Harbor House, and Austin, I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, so basically this was our old facilities that we established about a year out before the storm hit. How it used to be was we contracted out all of our upland facilities to Matanzas Inn. Basically what would happen was Matanzas would handle all the registration and check-ins, and then they would facilitate the boaters when they came to land. Matanzas would get 55% of the cut, the town would collect 45%, and we would go out and do all the operations on the water. During that time, we started seeing things that we could probably do a little better in moving forward. So we just tried it out. And from that, we rented a office space here and then the amenities from Matanzas as well. But we started to see an influx in boaters coming to the area. We started really tightening down on regulations and tightening down on what could happen in the area. And from that, the reputation of customer service started growing to where our numbers were exceeding our mooring systems. When this first took off, we had 70 moorings that we were offering. And then when the town took it over, it wasn't enough. We had about 40 people on a wait list during season down to about 10 people on a wait list out of season. So that's when we started establishing an extension of the mooring field, not only to get more moorings out there, but to clean the area up. From that, we started offering a little captain's lounge in here. We had a receptionist desk. We had a kiosk for you to use. We had TVs and everything set up just to make people more comfortable coming in. The AC was the biggest hit of the office. Just people coming in off their boat who haven't had a cool air in weeks would come in, visit with us, and we just started building rapport with the boaters. And we actually got Fleet of the Year for 2021. We've started our 5-star. We got I think 4.5 over 1,000 ratings on it. So we kept, superb customer service where we started putting the boaters and starting to provide to them before anything else. And that really resonated through the boating community. And that's one thing that we discovered quickly is how small the boating community is, even though it is very large. Communication among them are very tight. So if a marina or if anybody's doing something, everybody's going to know about it. Yeah. And that's what we started seeing here. And that's why we had such an influx of boaters coming to this area, because people were recognizing that we were turning a curve. We're starting to do more customer service base and welcoming more boaters to visit the area.
Now, you were kind enough to give me a tour about a month before the hurricane hit. Let's take a brief look at your offices. It's been kind of tragic for everybody down here. Yeah, it looks like they've kind of gutted this out and they're working on it. It was really nice. You really had a nice situation up until the hurricane.
Yeah, we went in and we really operated on a minimal budget. So a lot of the staff had to get creative in building what we had. To everything where we were using scrap wood and old access signs to build the countertops, and we ended up building a concrete countertop in here. And everything that we had was just pretty much salvaged from town hall. The old town manager ended up giving us his old couch, a bunch of his old stuff from his office prior to the storm, and which way we can make it more comfortable for the boaters. But it's just sad that this had happened because we were on an influx of going the right way.
In Austin, Bob, for folks who come and they also need to do laundry and they need to take a shower, and those facilities are still at Matanzas. Is that correct? Or one of their outbuildings?
Yeah, so that is correct. We didn't have anything really adjacent to this. We had a restroom in here for use, but we did offer laundry facilities. We offer shower facilities, and we offer bathroom facilities. We also had vending machine in there. We also had ice for people, and then we had water at the docks, and then our pump out service as well. We did have a dumpster down here that floated pretty much down to the beach after the storm.
Oh, it went this way? That's unusual.
It was wild. But
now this is the, I don't want to get off on a sidebar here, but this is if you buy a parking pass from the town, if you're a resident or you have a business on the island, this is where you'd park if you had a parking pass.
Yeah.
It's $25 a year for a resident, and this is that parking here, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you also have parking here for the boaters as well?
Yeah, so with the mooring field, if you do rent a system with us, you can have a parking permit for the extent of your lease.
Okay.
If you rent it by the month, then every month you'd have to come in and renew your parking pass. But if you paid in 6 month, whatever increments that you completed your lease payment in, that's how long those parking permits were good for.
Okay.
The reasoning behind that was basically people were coming in, getting the parking pass, and then leaving, but they were still having access to the parking after they left. So that's when we had to extend it for the lease only.
But if we take a break, or well, go ahead.
So as you can see across the parking lot where the orange door's at, that was our laundry and our bathroom facilities.
Okay.
So you'd come up by the dock over here and then end up over here with your laundry or anything else that you need to do.
It's pretty convenient.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad deal. We are working on bringing trailers down and getting things set up to where we can start supplying those amenities again at a more convenient area. But like I said, right now, we do have those trailers set up at Connecticut and Estero Boulevard on Access 22 at Beach Baptist Church, where there's a community center.
Can a boater then utilize those then?
Yeah, so we went ahead and reached out to the holders of that, and they said it is open for anybody in the community if you need.
And where do you put your boat? Where do you dock your boat?
Oh, right there at 36 Gulf Beach Road. You can dock there and then go to the end and then walk down Estero down to the community center there.
Okay, very good.
Be the best bet. Like I said, it's not the most convenient that we've offered in the past, but that's what we have at this moment. But then again, we're not trying to promote too many people coming to the area at this time. We're still trying to clear debris and clear things out, and just bringing more trash and more things to the area is just kind of burdensome for us.
Now, I don't want to put you on the spot, Austin, but as we look at the mooring field, we look at the upland facilities, we look at your office, do you have at least a rough timeline as when things might get back up and open again, or what do you speculate?
Leaps and bounds at this time. It really depends on what clicks for that day. Like, we could have a project that's been months, and the day that somebody signs that piece of paper is the day it's executed, which it's been in 6 months in litigation or whatever. So it's just really at the mercy of the federal system, the state system, and now the county systems as well, to see how quickly things can get processed. With the influx or with the damage that was sustained right after the storm, there's not that much anymore. Every day is less and less. So in terms of debris and clearing out what we need to clear out, not only that, but our procedures as well. I know that there's timelines on whether it may be how long it would take before we can get this kind of service or this kind of service. Those times are getting shorter and shorter. So I'm just saying it's not as far off as it was a week ago, if that makes sense. So in your mind, and I don't want to get into what, so if I'm somebody who loves to visit our mooring field, it might be open in 6 months. Would that be crazy, or would that? No, it's not crazy at all. All right. It's just what I can obtain for the Maritime Division is basically what I'm at the mercy of. Yeah. We have so much going on right now. It's just hard to really focus in on maritime and bringing people to the island and putting up amenities and things for people visiting these areas that really aren't too safe at the time. I got you. So that's why I'm really gauging all this of how quickly I can get this area secure and safe for people to come and visit. I hate for any trip hazards to be here. Even these mounds of dirt, present a problem. Have you heard from the state what they're going to do about this fishing bridge over here? That is DOT property right there. There's a long history behind that. I'm not too sure if you want to go into that. But
I remember the debate about whether it was going to be maintained or gotten rid of, and I don't know if we ever had any real resolution, but I was just curious if the counties and the states talked about repairing that, or if they're what their plan of attack is. But that'll be for another day. But those are certainly good questions. It clearly took a serious hit there.
Yeah, nobody's too enthused on the state or government side about it, but I'll tell you, the residents want it.
Yeah, the residents, it seems to be very popular.
They do want that.
I did notice the other day that when I did a little show at the Mound House, they have a beautiful fishing pier over there.
That's where I was going into.
It's a secret. I mean,
anybody coming down here to come fishing, the Mound House is where you want to go. I catch people down here fighting this debris, tearing down my caution tape and all that. And to be quite frankly, this is just desert over here. There's no real structure around here except these pilings and stuff for the fish to really gather around. The things that I notice is the more structure you have, or the more natural environment you have, the better the fishing is. That fishing pier over at Mound House, it really don't get much better than that. You have the natural riprap in the area. There's grouper holes in there. There's snapper traveling through there. You got sheephead on the piling. You have every natural fish coming through there. And not only that, it's an estuary. So a lot of the fish are coming in there to feed and to breed. So the Mound House is probably one of the best spots that you can to fish from. These areas like this that's been decimated, not only are you going to run into safety hazards, the fishing's probably not going to be as good as it would in a natural
That's
area.
a great tip. And one of the things I learned is that the Mound House is open. It's free. The grounds are free.
Absolutely
and
free.
There's parking there, and it's the pier is just beautiful.
And it's just a nice, peaceful place to be.
Yeah.
You don't get these cars traveling through. You don't get the construction. You don't get the barges coming through. It's just a nice, peaceful area just to relax. Actually, that's where I bring my kids out on the weekends and stuff. We go down there just to get away. Yeah.
So it's hard to know there was a hurricane out there at the Mound House, because the building's in good shape, because of course the height of the Mound House, and again the grounds are just beautiful.
Yeah, seems to be those Indians knew what they were doing. The Native Americans, they knew what they were doing there, huh?
Well, let's take a quick pause, Jacob, and then we'll get back on the boat and we'll figure out a little bit more what we're going to talk about. Go on, right, Jacob? Okay, perfect. Let's because people will be really interested in seeing.
Yeah, it's surprising on how quickly these docks came back. I've been noticing a lot of the rentals and stuff are still going on. So if you want to come down and rent a boat, those are open. What's that? Snug Harbor is open for business. A lot of the boaters are coming down there and getting lunch and facilities like that.
There's the town's Bayside Park, which we're still working on there. States promised to help us with that. There's Wahoo Willie's in the back, and of course you can see Moss Marine off there in the big blue building behind Snug Harbor. Snug Harbor looks like it's pretty active. Austin, talk a little bit about the partnership that Moss Marine has with the Coast Guard, and the fact that they're kind of temporarily here while they're building their facility.
Yeah, so Moss Marine has really made a comeback as well. I think they're probably the only marina on the island still offering fuel at this time now.
I think they lost, 4 of their 6 warehouses?
Yeah, they lost quite a bit, but they still didn't. They're still there. You know what I mean?
It's a beautiful piece of property. Yeah.
The Coast Guard station across the way has been rebuilt. It's been there, I believe, since the 50s, but they went ahead and demolished the whole thing and they're rebuilding it. So temporarily, they worked out a deal with Moss Marine here to house the Coast Guard and their fleet. Out back, they have temporary trailers and stuff set up for the Coast Guards themselves, for the officers themselves, I guess. And then they have coax for offices and stuff like that, so they can utilize that. These guys go out pretty much every day. They monitor the waters and patrol the back areas here.
What kind of a boat was this Coast Guard boat?
This cutter here?
This is a cutter?
Yeah, this is a Coast Guard cutter right here. This is the Crocodile.
And again, there used to be 4 more of those blue warehouses right in here in the Moss Marine property there. So how many of the Coast Guard cutters do they have stationed here in Fort Myers Beach?
Just one.
Just one? Okay.
Yeah.
Do they have smaller boats as well as part of their
Yeah,
fleet?
the small inflates over there. But yeah, Moss Marine's not doing too bad. But as you can see, all the resident dockage and stuff like that. And then this is pretty much where we've established the new mooring field coming out. We renumbered everything starting out there at Bowditch. That's starting at 1 down to 19 over here closest to the Coast Guard station.
Does it go down all the way to the pink shell?
All the way down there to the pink shell, yeah.
And how many new mooring balls were part of the new addition?
19.
Okay.
We got 19 out here, and the unique thing about these are the swing radiuses that we've established. Previously in the field, we had, I believe it was 2 90-foot swing radius systems. So basically, each system has a swing radius set up to which dictates the size of the boat that you can put on those systems. Because like I mentioned before, all these boats rotate. Each boat rotates differently based on the vessel that it is. As you can see, like these sailboats with these keels, they typically react to the underwater because the keel's grabbing which direction the water's flowing. And then you'll get these cabin cruisers that sit on top that really get dictated by the wind. So when you start getting opposing wind and tides, these boats will go stern to stern to each other, and that's where the swing radiuses are so important. You can't have these boats overlap or they'll hit. So out here back in the field, like I said, our largest swing radius was 90 feet, and basically I'll eliminate 20 feet due to the pennant line that comes off of the systems, and then from there we can add on whatever boat with that, minus the 20 foot.
Talk a little bit about the island that we're looking at right here on this side.
Yeah, so that's Bird Island. That's actually a no-touch island. It's to have no human contact. You can, there's 5 of those in Lee County, and that's one of them.
And is that where most of the nesting goes?
Yeah.
That's where the birds go at night to sort of.
That's basically it.
Yeah.
Yep. And you get a lot of complaints from smells and stuff like that, but it's all natural out here. That's what the buoys are set up to let you know you cannot get on this island.
How does Bird Island look different from Post Ian? Is it pretty much scrubbed, or do you see? Does it look? It doesn't look quite as green.
Yeah. So all the foliage has just been wiped out. Yep. Anything higher than a normal tree line is pretty much wiped out. You can see the cypress there in the middle that's just been stripped down, but it's all surrounded by mangroves and buttonwood, which really grab into the dirt and hold the island together. Those trees are meant for storms like that, so there shouldn't be too much of a problem with that, but the birds seem to love it over there.
Okay.
But these are the vessels coming in and passing through for just a couple days. Like I said, we're not really having anybody stay out here for more than 2 days.
A lot of folks registered with the town?
Yeah. So
you're functioning.
We're functioning, and everything that we operate through is on DACWA. It's a marine management app that you can download on your phone. And basically, we signed up with that to be our point of sale system. And what that does for us...
I'm sorry, what's this, Austin?
That's a shrimp boat coming back in from shrimping.
Okay. Talk a little bit about how it's structured. What are those giant...
Oh, those down nets. So basically what happens is they'll throw the nets out on those downriggers that fall down, and they just drag nets behind their boat. And then when they're ready, they just pull them up and pull in tons of shrimp. Wow. So yeah, that's the shrimp fleet right there out doing its work.
And you said even though all the shrimp boats were impacted by Ian, you think about 80% of the boats will be able to be salvaged and utilized again?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's looking good over there. A lot of them are working. You see people up on the boats actually functioning and doing repairs and stuff like that. So I don't think they're salvaging many of them at all. They're just repairing them because I do believe they don't make those boats anymore. They just have to kind of maintain what they have. But basically, this is our mooring system here. Coming into the mooring field, this is what you're going to see, is you'll see the marker buoy, which is a mooring ball with the number allocated to it to identify what system it is. That way, when we assign you a system, you know where to go. When we assign these systems, it's basically based off of the characteristics of what you're doing, how long you're staying, and then the size of your boat.
What do I hook up to?
So this pennant line right here, basically what you want to do is come into it, grab you a gaff, hook behind the system float, and then pull it up to your boat, grab the eye of it, grab the eye. You need 2 lines on each side of the vessel. Run 1 line through, cleat it off, grab another line on the opposite side, run it through, and cleat it off. So basically what this is going to do is you're not tying off to the thimble or the ball itself. You're tying back off to your boat. So if there's anything that you need to do to disembark off of it, you can just untie off of your boat. Another thing is what it does is it's creating a pivot so that you have a V going back to your boat, so that the lines are giving and giving as they pivot. So there's nothing fixed on and causing any binding or anything like that. These systems are set up right below the water line is a shackle cluster. Basically, where the line comes up from the bottom, there's a swivel shackle there that swivels, okay? So when you tie off to that top side and you're pulling and you're rotating, that thing is rotating with you, so nothing's binding up and twisting. So that's why it's really important you do not tie off to that thimble, because your lines will start to bind everything up, all right?
That is really interesting. We've never seen that before. That's great.
Let me back off and show you how it looks. Yeah, no problem. Watch, you're not tied up in the line, right?
Gotta get our cameraman.
Yeah, you can see how it just V's out. On your boat, it would go under your V, or on a catamaran, it would come up and tie off like this. But basically, that's what it should look like. You can see how it would pivot and give as you're moving. And then this way, you can come out and make any adjustments if you feel like you're too close to the vessel behind you, or if you want to slack out a little bit, you can slack out. So that's basically how that's done there. And then when you're ready to go, you just untie and pull your lines in, and then along with your journey.
Well, I'm glad you showed that, Austin. That's pretty cool.
But then again, every little line you add out, that adds to the length of your boat. So keep that in mind with your swing radiuses there. Let me just secure the deck real quick, and we will be underway. Tripping. Everybody good?
That's great. Thank you.
All right, making way. Now you see, this is our mooring field. It stretches out to Bowditch. Like I said, going to 1. And if you look at the perimeter of the mooring field itself, you'll see these yellow special purpose buoys. These mark the allocation line for the field. So as soon as you're on the inside of those buoys, you're in the mooring field.
And for people who are renting a boat, are they allowed to pass through here, or do they have to go around it, or what?
No, it's a waterway. You're able to traverse through the mooring field, but there's no anchoring or tying up in the mooring field itself. If you would like to rent a mooring field for the day, give us a call or let us know what your intentions are.
And we see Jacob was just looking at Bowditch Park here. We're at the tip of the island on the north end.
Yeah, that's it up there.
Of things, yeah. Looks like the Pink Shell's got a pretty good sized crane working on it over there.
Yeah, I think they're, I don't know, putting units up there, I believe, AC units and stuff.
They're making good progress. Anything else that you think our viewers need to be thinking about as we kind of take the tail end of this tour here, Austin? Anything else you want to convey to people?
Basically, just keep in mind the status of the island and what it's been through. We understand that a lot of people are curious to see exactly the devastation, but these are people's lives and people's homes that has been affected. So just keep in mind the sensitivity of these people and what they're going through. Going by and putting pictures and stuff and camera, it's not the best feeling to have somebody doing that after you lost everything. So just keep that in mind. And then again, all the debris and the things that still have to be taken down. This is like one of the highest traveled areas by boats, is this little channel that we're in here now, and you can just see everything that's just teetering.
What's this channel called, Austin? How would people?
This is the federal channel coming in the ICW to Matanzas Pass, is what this is here. But the like I said, the whole this area pretty much got the brunt of it. This is a very narrow part of the island, so a lot of the storm surge just kind of pushed this right over here. There wasn't really anything stopping the open Gulf from just having full force in this area. So you'll see a lot of this stuff is just devastated.
Well, we're coming to the end of the show. I want to thank Austin Gilchrist here, our harbor master. What kind of things are you working on? Is it all restoration here, or is the town giving you other tasks post Hurricane Ian? I notice a lot of people are doing different things than they normally do, just because of the state of their world.
Yeah.
What's your life been like post Ian?
So it's been a lot of debris cleanup. For me, it's been trying to get the beachfront and everything taken care of and cleaned up out there. But now at this time, we're starting more on our maritime operations. That's where I'm trying to get all of our bayside accesses back up and running. We have public piers at the end of Coconut Drive, at the end of Hercules, at the end of Del Mar, and we also have a public ramp at the end of Miramar that we're trying to maintain and get back up and running. There are some fishing piers and stuff down there that really weren't affected. It's just the area around them have really been decimated. So we're trying to get all the washouts filled back in, all the railing and stuff put back together, the roads packed back under because the roads were washed out back in the back areas as well. So a lot of that stuff there, we're trying to get to where people can utilize it again and enjoy it. But then we're also trying to get the canal situation under control to where we can start doing actual readings and seeing what it's going to take to get a real survey out here to get some movement on dredging and some canal clean or some debris removal and things like that from the canals. We're also working on water clarity. We've been working with the college out here, FGCU, and getting water samples out there to see exactly what's in the water and anything that may be changing. I know we're not running our pump out service right now, so that's a big concern for me, especially as a diver. I'm trying to get back in the water to get under it so I can start doing all my underwater work, but that needs to be safe for my crew as well to do that.
For people who on the beach side, as the water gets cleaner and it gets warmer and people want to go swim, will they be doing a sonar along the beach to look for any debris that's under the water so people can be safe as they're swimming in the ocean?
Yeah, so I'm actually the drone pilot for the island as well. So we've been doing a lot of drone operations where we'll fly at higher altitudes on clearer days and see if there's anything that we can find that visually, and then we'll locate that and give that to FDME or FEMD. I'm sorry on abbreviations there, but to have that removed. So it's just a constant. Every month we go out
when you
and
take
fly.
your drone and look along the beach and look at the ocean along the beach and the sort of that shallow area, do you still see a lot of debris in there?
Not too much debris on the beach side. That really has been just a turbulent area that everything just gets pulled back out. What we are seeing is a lot of things coming around to the backside of the island and washing up into canals, washing up into these little coves that aren't being freed up. We're starting to see floating docks end up in residential areas. We're starting to see hotel supplies, laundry carts, washing machines, things like that have washed over the island and into the canals and stuff like that. So a lot of the smaller yet larger items we're starting to locate and get pinpointing on to where we can find it. As far as the drone goes, we do flights every month. At the beginning of the month, I do a video from one end to the next, so we can get the progress from the air of what's going on, and anything that may stand out, we can identify it by air.
Is that something that eventually you could post on our website?
Yeah.
Are they interesting? I mean, can you see pretty far down? I guess it depends on what the water quality is that day, right?
Yeah, so basically that's all it is, and how big the debris is, what it is. Yeah. What I really look for is changes in it. We'll get pilings that are shifting or floating down the island that really need to be taken care of, because those are moving water hazards, to where if we locate like a large dumpster or something, we can mark it with the buoy, put a danger buoy on it, and it stays right there until somebody can come remove it. And like I say, if you do come across any floating debris, anything that will cause harm or damage, please report it.
Austin, what's your story? How did you come to work for the town of Fort Myers Beach?
So basically, I've been in hospitality. I used to run like restaurants and bars. And
anything on the island?
Oh, yeah. I used to work at Nellie's, the Sandbar, Pink Shell. I did a little stretch at Lani Kai, but those were all in my younger days.
Yes.
I started getting into managing and things like that, and then I just didn't want to I wanted to help.
Yep.
All right. My whole life was basically selling drinks to people and then sending them out in the world. And that's not something that I was proud to do. So I had, I believe it was Ryan Bellows that came in and told me about the town. And I had no idea that this was even a thing. So I came in under a voluntary thing, wanting to just go clean the beach ups and just help. That's when they had different staff was here, directors, and I sat down for an interview and they told me I'd be great for Public Works. So as I came into Public Works as just like a grunt, basically. I didn't want any title or nothing, but coming in, I just seen how much I could change.
Yeah.
Okay, so I started taking it upon myself to do everything I could to better the island. My whole philosophy I kind of brought from the restaurant business was make this place so nice that anybody coming here would feel bad trashing it. So I started out on the beachfront where I was part of the beach crew. And then from there, I've worked my way up to the beach leader. And then from there, I got prevalent to how everything worked as far as grants work, money allocations, and things like that. That's when I started taking the beach and turning it into like more of a theme, more of a recognizable thing all the way down the island. With my philosophy is keep it clean and keep the residents happy, because they will keep it clean for you. You know what I mean?
So, like we were talking about, it's like the broken window theory on crime. If you fix the little things, it creates an atmosphere where things are better. Yeah.
Things are better. And that was my attack on that. So from that, I didn't really have any idea what was going on in this backwaters. I knew that we had a pump out service. So we had a part-time guy back here who would come out and just do pump outs for a few hours a day and go home. So he ended up quitting, and one of my crew members, Ryan Bellows, came back here to take it over, and he ended up getting injured in a different off-work injury. And so I came back here and started taking over, and then that's when I started seeing what was going on back here.
Wonderful.
So that's when I started taking it upon myself to start changing it and turning it into a more customer service-based organization or enterprise or whatever you want to label it. Basically, I just wanted to make it more customer friendly, more user friendly.
We are so thankful for your service. You've got a servant's heart, and we're thankful for the things you're doing for Fort Myers Beach. We're wrapping up the end of our show. I just want to thank everybody for being with us. I thank Austin. If you like what you see and you've got friends who are on the canal or on the bay or fishermen or boaters, please feel free to link to this so people can get the word out about what's happening here on the bay side, and the canals, and with the mooring field. And again, just wanted to thank everybody. Thank Austin for his service, but thank everybody for being with us today. And again, we just appreciate all the changes and all the positive things happening around here on Fort Myers Beach. And again, thanks for being with us. And I'm Jim Atterholt. This is Key Questions with Key Staffers. Again, thanks for being with us, and God bless.